This is my boyfriend Garrett, and he is my audience member today. Did you know that in the past 20 years, injuries in women's sports have skyrocketed? A recent trend for health and wellness is found in women's sports. It uses weightlifting and strength training as injury prevention. Joint hypermobility is the ability to bend and flex a joint further than normal. It is very common in women. This causes major injuries in women's sports, one of the most common being ACL tears, which is due to a hyperextension of the knee joint. Hypermobility occurs mostly in the following joints: the shoulders, hips, knees, elbows, wrists, hands, fingers, and thumbs. It is most common in women due to the loose, soft tissue, hormones, and their tendency to participate in sports requiring increased flexibility. To tighten these loose muscles, these athletes should use strength training as it targets the muscles surrounding the joint. For example, to tighten the joint of the knee, you should use exercises such as squats, RDLs, deadlifts, and lunges. In a study released by the National Institute of Health, S.J. Fleck and J.E. Falkel break down the how and why resistance training aids in injury prevention. Their major findings found that using resistance training can increase the strength and growth in the tendons, ligaments, cartilage, and connective tissue in the body. It also increases the bone mineral content, which strengthens the bones in the body, therefore decreasing the skeletal injuries in sports. Lastly, overused joints, like the shoulder of a swimmer, for example, using resistance exercises, it can decrease the chance of injury in those joints. This study was the turning point for injury prevention. Athletes started to include weightlifting in their weekly schedule. One athlete that I'm very fond of is Julie Ertz. In an interview with Self Magazine, she discusses how she trained for the 2019 World Cup. In her 20 hours of a week in training, she included weightlifting, specifically targeting the smaller muscles in her body. She said, quote, "A lot of people forget the smaller muscles, which are just as important, especially in a multi-dimensional sport where you are running up and down in every direction," end quote. It is essential to use these joints and to strengthen them because it stabilizes the joints of the body, especially the lower half of the body for soccer athletes. Also in the interview, quote, she says, "Ertz does various movements on a Bosu ball," end quote. A Bosu ball specifically works on the balance of the athlete and keeping the knee joints in the correct form. Lastly, she says, quote, "Band work and single leg movements like single leg squats and lunges to improve stability in the lower half and the core." This is very important for soccer athletes as they need to stabilize the lower half of their body and the core in order to stay powerful on the field and to keep their ground. I am very passionate about this topic as it pertains specifically to me. I am a women's soccer player for the Shepherd soccer team, and I am at high risk for these injuries due to hyperextension in the joints. Thank you for listening to my speech. Let me know if you have any questions.